everyone, and welcome to another video in the Master Data Management in SQL series. My name is Elric, and in this video we're going to start working on our change management procedures. Actually, let me get a timer set up. So this may be a multiple part video. Alright. We made some changes to our table finder, and I want to go ahead and run that. So now that we have all of our new history and archive tables in our dataset table. Okay, so instead of using this, it's whatever. It is whatever. So our typing, I guess the code I wrote wasn't the best. Our typing is messed up. But instead of trying to resolve that right now, I want to get my insert, update, and delete procedures up, and this will allow me to select the data, compare it to anything that's going on in the procedure, and then send it to an insert or update accordingly. So then we can go back and fix all of these procedures and, you know, get the spiral development. It's not like one piece dies and the whole system falls apart. It's really, we need to create these tools to create better tools, and we're going to get to a point where we have a solid foundation. But until we can get these other tools for consistency, we're not going to have that solid foundation. So I actually added 2 columns to the dataset table. Go to the design view. I added a FLG record history and FLG record archive, both non-nullable with defaults of 0, because we're going to toggle the history and archive based on the table. And the other thing I did, just to help speed this video up a little bit, because these are pretty complicated procedures. I mean, they're not as similar as the views were, but I made 2 functions that essentially look the same, and it's just a dataset ID comes in, gets the archive flag, and it sends it back out. And that is the exact same thing for the history. A dataset ID comes in, select the archive flag from the dataset select view, where the dataset ID matches, and return that specific flag. Because we're going to add this in every single change management procedure that we create. So that is what I'm going to get started on, is these change management procedures. So the first one would be the insert. Let's see, yeah, I have them. Did a quick test run just to see how long this would take. So I'm going to kill these. Alright, Control-Shift-R. Oh. Alrighty. So the first thing I want to do is actually create a skeleton for our change management procedures. So I'm just gonna create a new procedure in interface main, and this is going to be like a tokenized script from our first videos. I don't know what date it is. It's okay. Procedure. I'm going to mark it as in the change management category. so they're all grouped together. And I'm going to include a token for the dataset name. Let's do the delete one first, because it's probably the easiest. We're going to have 2 incoming parameters. The primary key of the current table and the tenant of, the primary key of the current table and the tenant of the current table. And that's how we're going to delete these records. But we have to make sure that we are recording history and archive accordingly. So in every single procedure, we are going to have a few variables. I'll just call them internal. The dataset ID, some JSON variable, and history and archive flag, and this is for the delete piece. And what we're going to do is get the internal dataset ID. From the select view. Where the dataset name equals our token. Now we're going to fill our history flags. Once again, why do we not get them from the select table? It's because we are going to use a specific function. Like I do want to create another function for this to get a dataset name, but actually, yeah, that's what I want to do. I'll do that real quick. I'm going to put it under a system function because it's really important. So get dataset ID for name, incoming name, outgoing integer, dataset name, there we go. Let's make these all functions. There we go. So we'll get our dataset ID. We'll get our history flag for that internal dataset ID. And we'll get our archive flag for that internal dataset ID. So for the delete procedure, if the archive flag equals 1 or the internal history flag equals 1, we need to get the previous record from the dataset name. Actually, and this will be from the dataset select view, where the dataset short name ID equals the dataset short name parameter ID. We're going to go for JSON auto without array wrapper. And include null values. And that's going to give us a capture of that record in JSON with the system unique names from the select view, so we can reverse the process. Oh, I have to do one thing that I forgot. Run your synonym dataset create, just to make sure all your synonyms are there. So if our internal archive flag equals 1, we go to the system archive, because all these tables are going to look the same. Column. No primary key. Insert views do not have specific dataset number, and insert views do not have spoke flags. So this will be dataset name archive group ID tenant datetime archive JSON archive active flag archive valid flag archived flag. And the values, let me just bring this in a little bit. We don't have an operating tenant yet. In due time. I'm going to use UTC for my archive, or for my dates in my system. We have our JSON, our active, valid, and archive flags. And the same thing is repeated. Oh, killed that. If our history flag is 1, essentially it's the exact same thing with different names and one additional column, which would be action. We would just remove the word archive and replace it with history. So that is actually the that is the most important part of our, or most consistent part of our change management procedures, is making sure we're checking the history, and only the delete procedure checks the archive, so we'll remove code when we create our update and insert. And then, since we're doing this by data set, we'll get TBL ref dataset as our table. So we'll delete from the dataset, delete. I'm just gonna go head to the top and grab these. Oh, I forgot my ats. Forgot my comma. There we go. Use Alt select. Close enough. Bam. So that will delete a record regardless of the flags, but when we think of our items, we actually, our data, the main database has the current data, so we have to say, oh, okay, we're going to take this data out and move it somewhere. We don't want to delete it or update it and then move it somewhere. We want to take the current data out and move it somewhere, because main is defined as the current state of data, and the only thing that breaks that rule is the insert, is because we're inserting it and putting it in our history at the same time. But then our update will have that original insert value marked as an update. So that is our So that is our change management delete. So I could just copy all of this code. I'm gonna skip out on the word go. Actually save this as change management delete, just in case. And we're gonna head over to interface and create a new stored procedure. I'm going to follow the same view naming pattern. So DBO, PRC, utility, dataset. I'm going to say process, because these are processes. And we're going to get a dataset ID like our other ones. I'm going to remove this stuff. And I'm gonna paste this just so it's here. Alright. Nope. That was a little confusing. There we go. So for the delete procedure, I need dataset names. The dataset name and the dataset short, which is going to trim TBL ref, essentially how we created our base views. And I will just need basin and execute. SQL container, UDT standard dynamic SQL. There we go. And so this isn't confusing me, I'm actually going to initialize my base. Should end right there. Excellent. Oh, yep. We should have two of those. We added the action, or I added the action. Here's my date time. So our action is going to be like the $ action. From here, pretty simple. Incoming dataset ID. So select the dataset name and the dataset short name. From the dataset select view, where the dataset ID is the incoming dataset ID. Because we're not dynamically building lists for our delete because it's so simple, that is essentially it. We can just run our replaces on 2 items. The dataset name and the dataset short name. And I just want to make sure that it looks okay. I'll send it 1 for the dataset table. Oh, some's up. There we go. Just kind of see. Okay, so this should be short name, not normal name. It should be short name. And that looks about it. TBL, 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 TBL. Boom. Easy enough. Now we good. That's why we're doing this. Bam. Should be history. There we go. Oh darn. One more thing. Ha! One more thing. No problems. The action flag. So we can make sure that we are updating accordingly. And select the action flag equals, actually, if exists, select one from DBO. Information schema routines, where routine name equals, I could just go up here and copy my procedure name, but remove the token, have the dataset name here. Might have to move this down, but that's okay. Yeah, have to move this down after we get our dataset name. So if it exists, one and zero, which means one more. If exists is one. Excellent. Now we can remove this sp execute SQL and alter it for our last time. 28 in. So that means I could create 2 in this video. And that is what I will do. So now that we have our delete, we're going to kind of modify this thing completely. Let's do the update, because that is a decently sized one. And the update, we have a larger list of parameters. And what else do we have? We have the set column equals parameter. So we're going to call it these declare. We're going to call these set data point parameter. And what I mean by that is we're going to have, oh, I said delete, declare. We're going to have declare parameters. Everything's the same except for archive, so we can actually remove the archive flag completely. we still want the previous, but we don't want any archive things happening. And this is the update procedure. So we are going to give it the update action. And this changes. So update dbov for the dataset name that's incoming underscore update. Set, and this will be our set data point parameter, where dataset short name ID equals at dataset short name ID. So not so bad, except we're going to borrow code from our view creator, the update view creator. I'm going to take the definition and system reference relationship type ID, close that, variables, just pop them up here. I'm going to take my initialization for my definition and for my relationship type. So we don't have those functions yet, and we will be creating apologies. We'll be creating all the necessary functions, kind of like we're creating this, but it'll be way easier to remove this code, because all we want are functions to retrieve our things. And I do need the cursor. Just maybe not half of the stuff in the cursor. So we get our dataset name, we check if it exists, and then I'm going to start my cursor. And I'm going to work backwards. I don't need the trigger. And we're going to modify that. I'm going to save this because we'll be trimming 2 sets. Kind of like the data point list. So this is the code that we used to transform our data point into the proper name. So we're going to be using this. Actually, let me just update this now so we can try to do this as much as possible. This references our new view, but this does not. So let's point dataset ID, data point type ID, data point sequence. Sweet. So we have 2 parts for our update, but our update is pretty easy. So I think I need a name and a name transformed, because I do not have those declared yet. Declare transformed name. I need a type ID and a type ID key name. Getting a little confusing in here. Sweet. So I'll get my name, I'll transform it. I'll transform it again to make sure I have the right name. go. Alright. And then I need my two new variables, my declare and my set. So I'll just bring them down after the transform. I gotta make sure to initialize these so they're not null. So I'm gonna use a 13, char 13. I'm gonna add the transformed. This will be my declare. Oh, this will be my declare. So select data point type key name equals data point type key name from DBO data point select type select. Come on. Data point type ID equals at type ID. I'll just make sure I get my data point type ID. And my fetch next. So it will be at plus the transform name, so we'll have at dataset ID at dataset sequence plus a space plus the data point type key name, because that's going to be the easiest thing to do. I mean, yeah, I could take my primary key, go up to the class, figure out if it's a system. Well, we'll have to do all the systems, but if I took we'll have to do all the systems as their original data point types. But like a flag, because it's under the FLG class, then I can go down and get a standard version of that in the type. So there is kind of a switch that we can do, but there's no need for that. We are pulling directly from these tables. We want to create it like this, using the UDTs that they are declared by in the tables themselves. It's only in our code where we're really creating something. We're not reusing something that we want to use different UDTs. So that's why I'm using the original UDT. And I don't have anything that's in proper case, so they're going to be in caps, and that's okay, because this is automatically created or automatically generated. So that's my declare in my parameter side. And then almost the exact same thing for the set. Where I'm setting the transformed equals the variable. That would be my update statement. So after these are ran, I can essentially just take the commas off of them. And I'm going to go back up and actually initialize them, because I said I was going to. A null plus anything is still a null. So select these guys as empty. Awesome. And then the execute. So we will have the dataset name, the dataset short name, the action flag, one it exists, two it does, or zero it doesn't. This will be process execute, and this will be case. And then we'll have our two more things. Actually, 1, 2. Copy, paste, paste, in. There we go. Let's see what I name them. Declare parameters and set data point parameter. Okay. So declare parameters and set data point parameter. Declare parameters, set data point parameter. Now I believe that is it for what? I thought I did. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. That is not what I called it in here. I called it the short. Data set, data point, data set, data point. Okay. Then I have another view in here. Oh, that is fair. Alrighty. So now I'm gonna pass it to my update. I didn't have it as a print. I'm kind of confident. We had a couple. Okay, so that's a data set name. Is somewhere that it shouldn't be. Somewhere we, oh, yep. Let me look at my parameter building. Did I use data set name? There it is. It's the token replacement. Cannot update identity column. Oh, that is correct. Name does not equal UDT come on. Right. Something got nulled out. Do I see my action flag? Yep. Oh. We just overrode a procedure. darn it. Nice. Sending updates accordingly. Update all of my things. Dataset ID. Skipped out on the primary key because we cannot do that. 45. Really wanted to get all of them in here. All right, we're doing it. We're gonna go fast. Let's try to go fast and make all the mistakes. We have our declare instead of our set. We have our data point list and the declare list. You think insert into, and these are the values. So still need these. Data point and declare. We can do it. Let's say about hour and 10. Let's do it. Insert. Checks. Definition. Alrighty. And we gotta fix this. So insert into DBO v dataset name underscore insert thingies. So we will have data point list, parameter list, but we need to actually reverse our if statement. Put our if statement for the history at the bottom so we can get the insert after it happens, because that's how this thing works. And the second thing is we need to do something that I hate to do. But I find it is I've had problems with scope and current identity in different situations, so I've just used one way of doing things, and that is I create a table variable because that's what SQL makes me do. I'll put inserted dataset short name ID into at MTBL primary capture or primary key capture inserted ID, and that will help me grab that ID and then select that ID or select at dataset short name ID equals inserted ID from that table variable, since there'll only be one. That's how I like to capture it. It's the easiest way for me. Now we go back down to the code modifications. Our declare is going to have an extra thing on it, plus if, and I'm going to do this, data point type key name equals primary key, then add output, else add nothing. Make sense? We're gonna insert and then we're gonna receive it back from our change management procedure. So why not? We are already in there. If it's not the primary key, that'll be my set. So this is pretty much easy peasy. What do I have? Variables. Data point base. Oh. I should have renamed those differently. Declare. I'm gonna rename that even though I'm trying to rush it. That's just an unacceptable name. I'm gonna call it parameter base instead of declare base because I already have a declare parameter. Okay. So data point base. This is just the transformed name. So I think I copied this. Yep. That's a parameter. So the into gets the bottom removed, and the values gets the top removed. Because we're essentially just splitting up the update statement. Next. Make sure we trim them off. Trim off that trailing comma. We got 3 of them. We got 1 more of these guys. We should have data point list. I think that should be it. Kind of blew through that one. Nope. So that means there's something in our script. Actually, screw trying to figure it out. Let's just print it. Correctly this time. Okay. Show me what's wrong. Oh. This guy. Haha. Easy peasy. It's got a trailing comma, so that means I probably copied it twice. Might have grabbed the wrong thing. Base. Happens trying to fit it all in, trying to rush it. But I think we business. Do I get my output? Yes. Yes. All right. So there's an important thing. Essentially, this is the end of this video. I'm going to run these in one of my snippet cursors. But there is a very important thing that we have to do. We're just going to finish this off with make sure our objects are created. So I want to create the base, select, insert, update views, update and delete. For all of my tables. But the problem is I can't create these procedures for all of my tables, and I don't have a good way because my data set type ID is messed up. We're going to have to do this in a way that I do not like, but it's just what we have to do. Because now we have those procedures where we can go back into the table finder and figure out the code. I bet you it's something to do with the left and the right. I just have a feeling. Sometimes it's a little weird to think like that. But now we have a way to grab it, type it. If our types don't match, we're going to update them. I mean, that's what these are for, so we can stop using the insert statements and all of that. So that means where the right of the, since it's just this string name in the length of underscore archive does not equal archive. And same thing for history. So I only have 42, not my 100 and something. And I should, yes, be able to create all of my procedures. Looks like close to an hour worth of video, but so much was accomplished. I'm glad I was able to trim that down. My first attempt was horrible. And it was an hour and 40 minutes. Excellent. So familiarize yourself with these new change management procedures, because this is how we're going to be moving data back and forth, and we are no longer going to be inserting into these views that we only had for a couple hours in terms of development time of these videos. This is what we're going to use, and we're going to have to update our code accordingly. So that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope these patterns are starting to come out and you're seeing not only the development patterns, but the data relationship patterns and the context key patterns, and just all of the different things that are happening in quote-unquote day 3. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. I believe this could be, I think we'll go over the wiki. I think I will end day 3 on the wiki. So thank you very much again, and you have a good one.